Hello internet, and today's video is going to be another book opinion, those videos in which I tell you my opinion on a book, and today's book is going to be Furthermore by Tahereh Mafi. And this was a really good book for me. I know there's some decisive opinions on booktubes about this book not being as good as people had hoped or just being okay for them, like a 3.5 stars versus a 5 stars, but in my personal opinion, I gave it like a 4 to 5 stars. Like, I really love this book. I definitely think this book is worth your time. So this book is about a girl. She lives in a world of color, and magic is color and color is magic. They're interchangeable, right? And it's just so important to have this color in the world. And the only problem with her is she lacks pigment, and that is very apparent in this very colorful world where everything from the clothes that you wear to the skin that you have is some range of color. And here's this girl who lacks pigment, and she feels out of place in the world. Well, there's a ceremony that goes on in which people are given some sort of mission if they show a talent, and then they get to prove themselves as members of societies. This girl gets wrapped up with this other boy because his mission is to find her father. They end up going to this place, this other realm that is connected but not really to theirs, called Furthermore. And Furthermore is the reason why I love this book. So Furthermore is this really weird magical place. Just like this girl's home world, it runs on magic. But Furthermore is different. Furthermore is menacing in the way that they have their magic. It's nonsense makes sense. It's like Alice in Wonderland. How Wonderland, the rules of logic are different. How it's more literal sometimes and less metaphorical, I guess. Furthermore is just like Wonderland in that instance, except it's a lot more menacing to the people who visit. Where Wonderland is this fantastical, mystical place where weird things happen and those weird things make sense. Alice is never in really true danger. But in this case, everybody wants to eat you because magic just means so much here in this world of Furthermore. It's so poignant. It's so important. And they believe that magic, when it comes into the world in the form of, say, this girl and the boy, it's so much more richer, right? It's richer. So you want to eat the richer magic. So I loved Furthermore. I loved how intense it was, how murdering a kid really wasn't a bad thing because you wanted that potent magic, right? And how the nonsense makes sense, how walking up to the sky just made enough sense if you just thought it was there. Like, a lot of weird things happen, but when reading it, I was like, oh, okay, I didn't have a hard time understanding the logic of Furthermore. It just was such a different logic than what we would use in the real world. But that nonsense makes sense sort of idea, it made so much sense why the things that this boy was saying that you had to do, you have to do. The one thing that I both loved and kind of was against when it came to this book, it was both a high point and a down point for me, was the two characters. So I liked their character development. I liked how they weren't perfect people. I liked how their flaws got in the way of talking to each other, of their journey, how they had personal issues that stopped them from doing what they needed to be doing because they weren't the perfect people, but they had these issues that drew them back. So I liked that development. I liked how it went along. I liked how they had tension between them. That wasn't any sort of love tension. It was just tension of two people who kind of rub each other the wrong way. And I liked that their flaws often knocked heads and prevented them from doing what they needed to do to succeed in their mission. However, when that finally comes to the pinnacle where it breaks them apart for a little bit, this was where I more had the issue, where it just seemed like such a fast break and a fast mend that it didn't really seem worth it. Like, it was like, oh, you're hot-headed, you break off, go your separate ways, but then the next 2 sentences you're back together. There's, of course, something a little more menacing going on in there that made them come back together, other than, oh, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings or something. Like, there was something that kind of forced them to apologize and end up letting go of their vices so that they could get along with each other and succeed in this mission. But I think that was actually the weakest part of this book, simply because that slow buildup of them not getting along, and then just all of a sudden they get along in the rest of the book without any continual disagreement. It's understood because they're trying to survive, so why would you constantly fight with the only person who could help you survive? But at the same time, it seemed a little unbelievable that these kids who just kept knocking heads so hard in the beginning just had to be like scared one time and that they were gonna die, and all of a sudden they're okay in the end, right? All of a sudden they're best friends. So that was my only downside to this book, that the vices didn't last as long when it came to each other. I don't think they needed to be constantly fighting after that like pivoting point, but I would have liked to see a little more like tension in them trying to figure out how to make this work now that they were determined, they were both in it full force, and they were going to try to make this partnership work. I would still like to see a little bit of tension of them just trying to figure out how to make it work, then all of a sudden them being like reading each other's minds and just knowing what to be doing. It existed a little bit, right? But not to an extent that I would have liked. But overall, that wasn't a main drawback for me, because the story at the end, even like after like they started working together, was really, really good. So I didn't really mind all that much. That was just one thing that kind of was a drawback for me in the case of this book. But what really won me over was the whole concept of Furthermore, the whole idea of Furthermore, and just how the world of Furthermore worked. I thought it was so good. I just thought nonsense makes sense sort of aspect to it was such a mind-boggling fun time. I also like the narration of this book. It had a storyteller style narration that I guess would harken back to Lemony Snicket's, but not as snarky and as intrusive as Lemony Snicket's was when he was doing his storytelling style, but definitely something reminiscent to that, but to a lower extent where you know it's someone else telling us these stories of these two kids and the story of Furthermore. I really enjoyed this book. I definitely want to read the next book in this series. I definitely wish I could see more of Furthermore. I want to see more of these magical worlds that she creates, but I definitely wish that I could revisit Furthermore and learn more about it, because that was really what won me about this book. So if you have read this book, comment down below. Let me know, how did you feel about it? Were you one of the ones who really, really loved it? Or were you one of the ones who just thought of it as an okay book but couldn't fall in love with it even if you just liked it? If you like what you are seeing here and you want to see more, click all those bunnies down below, and goodbye, Internet.